So good to be with you tonight. Very exciting. All right. Okay. Stop. Quit hitting the button, Joe. Sorry. I'm trying to fix it.
So, just go one way.
Okay.
And there's this.
Okay. Great.
So, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Super. Thank you. All right. Very good. This will be great when we get started. Just sit in, just wait for it. That's right. That's right. I'm dying to know what you said about me on the video. You know, I'm going to have to pull that up. I know. Are we okay? All good? It locked up because I was clicking it. That's right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start anyway. Oh, I see. Okay. Super. That's right. User. Well, the first thing I have to show you is a map of where we're working. So this is where we work. This is my family. Okay, here we go. All right. There we go. Here's my family. They're leaving the home now. It'll soon just be the wife and me and the young one there. And we're working over in Micronesia, for those of you who may be new to the congregation, and that is this area right here of the Pacific, the northwest corner of the Pacific. I'm working in Guam and Palau and Chuuk. And what I want to do is share with you what has been going on since we were with you last, and then in the second half of our time together, talk about black magic in the islands. The islanders really believe in black magic. They'll throw things on top of an enemy's roof in order to curse that house, and they believe that that will cause black magic harm to come to the house, and they truly believe in it. So it's not good, but they believe it. It's not true. I'll share with you more about that. But brethren, we were living in Palau and moved to Guam since we were with you last. We did not want to leave the work in Palau, but wanted to be able to continue with it, and so drew a circle around a 5.5-hour flight radius around Palau, and said, well, where could we move and be able to still fly into Palau and Chuuk and work there? And Guam was the best choice for us to be able to do that. Food restrictions that we have developed over the years, and also the health of the family, were some of the reasons why we felt like we needed to make a move and get out of Palau, kindly underdeveloped there, and so those were some of the reasons. So, time for a move, and we drew a circle around and then moved to Guam, and loaded everything up into a shipping container and came on over there. When we moved there, there were 3 congregations meeting. We were able to consolidate 2 of them. That was the Deerfoot Church of Christ there, and then this is the North Guam Church of Christ meeting on Anderson Air Force Base, which was great because in the beginning we were able to get visitors passes and go on to the base and worship with the brethren. But it was not long until COVID and national security issues prevented us from being able to get on base anymore at all. So we met with the brothers and said, we've got a congregation here to which we cannot bring visitors. And so what about that? And so we decided that we would move the worship of the North Guam congregation off base, and we've got slides coming up for that. This is the 3rd congregation, and the only one in existence now, the Asin Church of Christ. And so with Anderson Air Force Base, we found a gutted storefront, offered them about 1/3 of what it was worth, and to rent monthly, and offered to do the repairs, of course, ourselves. They agreed, and so we went to work and turned this place into something that we could worship in. There was electrical work to do, plumbing work to do, just about everything to be done in this space. But we got it done, and the North Guam congregation moved into that space for worship, and the Deerfoot congregation joined them, and so we were able to happily unite 2 congregations there to where they could be worshiping together. So that was great. And then we were picking up people, bringing them. We had more than we could fit into our minivan, so on Sundays we would rent a vehicle. Tammy would drive one way and I'd drive the other, and we'd meet back there. But then with COVID, the North Guam congregation, which was mostly military, many of them moved out, and there were no other military moving in, and so it got down to just a few people, and we disbanded the church, moving the remaining people down to the Asin congregation. So not a bad thing that the congregation there closed. It was simply because the military people who were making up the church moved off island. So now we still have the Asin congregation and worshiping together. So this is one of our brothers there. One of the ministries that we have going in Guam is a prison ministry. And Atrico is a good friend of mine. I knew him in Chuk for years and years before he moved to Guam and got in trouble and got put in prison. But now he teaches daily Bible studies there in the prison. And I'll tell you more about Atrico and what he's accomplished with those Bible studies here in a few minutes. But let's go over to Chuk now. We work with Guam, Palau, and Chuk. And when we're in Chuk, we're able to have Bible studies. Sometimes we have group Bible studies. Sometimes they're individual Bible studies. Sometimes they're during the day. Sometimes they're at night. And then we have the worship on Sundays together. And this is a new translator, the gentleman with the 4 on his shirt there. His name is Last. And so the work there is going forward. We had a great loss since I was with you last. Our longtime preacher, Hermas Cholame, passed away. Don't know if it was COVID or not. It may have been. But in Chuk, they don't know if they had COVID there or not. They don't have the medical facilities to be able to test people and know. So it's just what it is. This is a typical house in Chuk outside of the town area, and if you were to walk up to this house, you'd shuffle your feet on the banana leaves to announce your presence, and you might call when you're 40 or 50 feet away, say, Rananim, which is good day, to let them know, because as you can see, the house is largely open, and they may be doing something inside, changing clothes or something like that, so you would announce your presence before going up there. There's no doorbell or door knocker. You just call out before you approach the house out of respectfulness. And so these people, my friends, the Chukis, will move to Guam, which is much more developed with regular kinds of houses. And here's some of them. This is Rakinta and her boyfriend Otto. Otto is not a member of the church. Rakinta is, and we've been having Bible studies with Otto. But they're used to living in Chuk where there are not those doorbells and door knockers. And so when they come over to the house, she messages me on Facebook Messenger, we're here. She doesn't come up to the house and knock or ring the doorbell. And so I'll go, and when I get the message, and Otto will be laying down on the front lawn, waiting for her to make the introductions, and then he'll come inside. Just a difference in perspective, a difference in what they think and how they do. I found him more than once laying down on the outside of the house, waiting for Rakinta to get the door open so they can come in for the Bible study. So this is another very common picture in Chuk, and it's out in the bush, and that's where the people are. That's our translator there, Last, and some of Atrico's children, the man in prison there in Guam. And so sometimes, brethren, they'll ask for food, and sometimes we'll give food, but we try to be very careful about giving out money or things that have value because we don't want them to associate that with the church. They do enough of that in Chuk already with denominationalism, and so we'll give seeds so that they can grow their own food. Here we were able to help him get a piglet so he could grow it into a size that they could use for their family. Here's a typical market. There's fresh bread. They don't have shipping things coming in to bring in bread from the U.S. There is a little bit, but it's frozen, and you can find it in the freezer section. Otherwise, it's fresh bread there in Chuk. Bananas, there'll be canned meat in the store back in there, and then 5-gallon jugs of water. That's what you eat, and that's what you have in Chuk. This is Isiana, and Isiana said it well when she put her hand on my arm one day, and she said, Joey, we need people to come out here and help us. She's talking spiritually. She could have been meaning a variety of different things, food, shelter, they need it all, but she's talking about spiritual things. So you are helping us to do that, brethren, and we appreciate it. I wish there were more who could go. Maybe you'd be interested in coming out and making a trip like that. So that's the work in Chuk, and then we have the work in Palau as well, the brethren meeting there in the church building. One of those pictured there is a visitor. We had a typhoon-type storm, and a sign blew down, so the brethren had to work to get that back up. This is Ben he's a Palauan, and he has a relative in the police department, and so he thinks that he can have a door for getting Bible studies going in the prison. The prison is that blue sign that you see behind him. And so we were there that day working on that. This is the hospital. We were visiting one of the members' husbands who's not a member on that particular day. And this is Gilbert, with whom we've had several Bible studies. I'm going quickly because I want to get to some other things in the lesson but still bring you up to date on what's going on. This is Mino. He has been preaching in Palau. When we left Palau, of course, it left a hole in the church, and I want you to know the brethren stepped up nicely to fill that hole. They had not been preaching regularly. They had been preaching very sporadically, but when we left, they did, and getting involved with the paperwork of the church and just doing what needs to be done. So we're thankful for their willingness to do that. And that brings us up to within about the last year, except for COVID. I'm just going to take 10 seconds and talk about COVID, then we're going to move on, okay, because I don't want to talk about it either. The governor couldn't shut down the roads to keep people at home back in the beginning, so she put up checkpoints, used the U.S. National Guard to make checkpoints and to encourage people to stay home. If you go to the bakery, you had to stay in your car, call in your order, they'd come out and bring it, had to turn your air conditioner off so it wouldn't blow COVID stuff from your mask out the window to them. Just a lot of things. Brethren, just in May of this year did the mask mandate lift in Guam. And so we've been really behind the times and really challenged with it. During COVID times, we made sure that the brethren, when we couldn't worship at the building, made sure the brethren had the Lord's Supper supplies. We delivered Bibles. We delivered food, a mattress in this case that was extra. Spam and rice are some of their favorite foods. Here, I couldn't go to Palau, so we shipped sermon outline books to some of the men who were preaching there in Palau, and then just visiting. These are the kinds of things we did during the lockdown, shutdown time of COVID. So that brings us up to within the last year. One of the interesting things over in the islands is that we're not able to buy church furniture. There's not an outlet for it. And if we did buy it, we'd have to ship it then in a container. And so we have to make those things ourselves, which is kind of fun and I enjoy. This is the old Lord's Supper table there for the Untitled Church of Christ. And this is the new one. We were able to build security bars. The church building in Guam has been broken into 3 times over the last year. So we put security bars on the windows. And then this was a fun project. It was a tract rack. You see, it's all full of house-to-house, heart-to-heart tracts. And here's what you got to do for a tract rack in the islands. Number one, the front of the tract has to, or what's holding the tract has to come up 4/5 of the way of the tract. Otherwise, the tract will wilt and lean over whatever it is that's holding it up. Right? Because the church building is not air conditioning through the week, and it just gets very, very humid and hot. The second thing is to use wax-coated paper, which House to House, Heart to Heart does on all of their tracts, and so that's another reason why we use those. But the church didn't have a tract rack, and so now they do, and it gets a lot of use. The brethren are really enjoying using the tract rack, so that's a fun project. We were thankful in our last reporting time before we went back to the islands to be able to go to the House to House, Heart to Heart School of Evangelism. And brethren, I had heard that some good things were happening with that program, and I told Tammy, I said, we should do that before we go back, just to see what they're doing. And of course, some of the things that he's doing is working with visitors in the pews, the compassion cards, and the New Movers program. We are not able to do the New Movers program over in Guam because they don't keep that information. It's not purchasable by us. It's not obtainable in another way that we could figure out. So we don't do the New Movers. But we do the compassion cards. And the gentleman on whom that arrow is pointing is somebody that we did compassion cards on twice. And somebody that I've known for a few years and encourage and try to get to come to the worship and try to set up Bible studies with him. But it was the cards that did it. We didn't get the Bible study yet. We're still working with him, but he's in the church building. And brethren, he is the crankiest, orneriest. He is. I'm telling you, he told me early on, if I ever offend you, I'm sorry. Just know that it's my style, right? And he did offend me very much one time. We were going to go Christmas caroling. And so I told him, I said, the wife and the kids and I are going to swing by your house next couple of days and do Christmas caroling. And he said, okay, but just don't come over and preach at me. And for a preacher, first of all, I'm already sensitive to him, and so I was actually offended when he said that. And I told Tammy, doesn't he know that I'm not forcing anything on him, and why say something like that? So that's his manner and that's his style. And he's told me more than once, I think all the churches are okay, and I don't want to hear about anything, and I don't want you to tell me about anything. And he'll say it more direct than that. But there he is. Okay? The compassion cards, he has cancer, it's terminal, he has a limited amount of time. The church, he was able to tell me exactly how many cards he had received when I asked him about it. How many did you receive? 19. Not a moment hesitation. Yeah, so it touched him. So they work, and it helped him. So then we have visitors in the pews that we work with, and that's where the congregation in Guam has really had success this year in working with the visitors in the pews. The congregation at Aston has had 10 baptisms this calendar year. That's unheard of for the church there in Guam. It's terrific. They're bouncing off the walls. We have been creating an atmosphere that's very comfortable for people to come, and our fringe members have been coming back. I'm going to have to skip forward. Our fringe members have been coming back, and the church building is packed. If I go very fast, will it cause that to hang up? Okay. So here's the church building. Brethren, there's not room, okay? And so this is excellent. We had to bring in more pews from the classroom into the auditorium to make room for people. And so we started with preaching on evangelism and the how to do the Back to the Bible sessions, books, preaching how to do the Back to the Bible books, and then making them available just like you have in the auditorium. And one of the couples in the auditorium just grabbed on with both hands and dove in with both feet. And them and us and others, the 10 baptisms, we're just elated about it. So I want to tell you about some of them. One of the girls' names is Isabella. She contacted one of our members over a health comment post that she had made and started visiting the church. She's in the Navy there in Guam. We spent time with her, went out to eat with her, invited her to a study. It took a little time to warm up to her. She's a reserved kind of girl and reserved about the church. But she agreed to a study after we got to know her a little bit. When it's a single girl, lady like that, I don't be involved. Tammy does the Bible study, so Tammy and one of our other lady members there in the Aston congregation studied with Isabella. She had reservations over instrumental music when that was covered. She had reservations over the necessity of baptism when that was covered. She was conflicted, though, because she really wanted to be baptized. She really wanted to be baptized. And so we had a sermon on baptism, and she wasn't there that day, but Tammy forwarded it to her. We record them, and Tammy forwarded it to her. And hearing that sermon, she was convinced, and then Isabella was baptized. And so that's how it goes. I know that you have stories just like that, but I'm going to tell you our stories, and then I want to hear your stories because it's encouraging and it helps me understand how people think and how people work, and that helps us to baptize more people. So Isabella here was baptized and has been a faithful member of the church since several months. So we're thankful for that. That's Isabella. And then I want to tell you about June. June was one of our visitors in the pews as well. She was in a relationship with one of our members. And there were things about that relationship that were not good and not right. Some things that had to change before she could be baptized. So she didn't understand why that was the case. And that made it awkward. Does it ever get awkward with you, with people? It's okay that things get awkward sometimes. What we did was we just pushed through with the Bible studies. We just kept going through book number 1, book number 2, book number 3, and the awkwardness can work out. The studies were on again, off again with June, but when they finally completed, she understood, and June was baptized. That's another one of our. Then there's Dagan and Hennessy, studied with some of our members. They also were in a living situation that had to change before they could be baptized. So they were baptized one day, separated for that night, married the next day, and then he moved back in afterwards. And so that's their story. That's their story. There's another young lady who we've known for years. Her name is Cora. And Cora was in high school when we first met her, and she would come to the worship. We'd go pick her up. She'd come to the worship regularly. But Cora really didn't have so much spiritual interest. She was in high school at that time and just mind on other things. So she and her mom moved from Guam back to the Philippines. A lot of Filipinos in Guam. 1/3 of the population is Filipino. They moved back to the Philippines and then moved back to Guam. And when they moved back to Guam, did not have a place to stay. So they stayed with us for a week. The mom speaks very little English. She can understand some. She can speak hardly any, just like 10 words. But she can understand some. But when they stayed with us, that gave us the door. They came to worship with us. And then after they moved out to their own places, we started to bring them regularly to the worship every Sunday. And so then we started having the Bible studies with them during the Sunday morning Bible class hour. Be me and Cora and her mom and a Chuukese lady who also was visiting. And that turned into every Sunday having those Bible studies, and Cora was baptized. And so she's been a faithful member of the church also. Her mother, not yet. We're still working on the mother, but Cora was baptized. And so those are some of our stories, brethren, and we're so excited about them. I'm so thankful for Back to the Bibles and for the example that's being set and your involvement with it, and it has really made a difference in our ministry. The man who's in prison has translated the Back to the Bible into Chuukese, and it's difficult to do. I can make a drop to him once a month. The prison system there is not like here. We don't have the freedom there, and it's all just what they choose to allow at any given time, what the guards choose to allow, what the administration chooses to allow. So once a month we make a drop, and that's shampoos, and if he needs any shorts or underwear or something like that, and I can put papers in with that. So I put the Back to the Bibles in there, and I've got to put pens in with it and notepad paper in there with it. So I ship that to him. And so that goes to him, and then he'll translate, and then he'll call me up and say, I got to load his phone with minutes so that he can call me. And he'll call me up and say, well, what does indeed mean? How would you define indeed? He'll say, well, what does verily mean? Okay. Well, what does surely mean? And so he'll call me up and ask me these questions, and I tell him, and then he'll put it down in Chuukese, and the next month, drop time, he'll send those papers out, and then I'll get them and type them up, and then I give them back to him for editing, and then he'll go over them again and send them back to me, and we've got the first one translated into Chuukese. He has used those with his fellow cell block people, and one of them is wanting to be baptized. It's not as straightforward as it is here. We don't have the federal and even the state structure that you have here in the prison system. And so for me to go in and baptize, I have to get permission, and I have to be approved. And that's all fine and well and good, except that the prison system there uses kind of like it's like a third-party religious service. They don't want to get into the religion themselves, but they know it has to be done, and so it's kind of a denomination that is organizing the approval of ministers to go in and do things like that. So it's a little bit messy, it's a little bit hairy, but it takes time, and we believe that we can get there, and I'm working on getting that approval so that I can go in and baptize this man. Atrico did tell me, he said, oh yeah, we can do baptisms, there's a tub. They've got a metal tub, like a tin tub, that they use for baptisms. That's great news, because that means they're not foreign to the idea of immersion as baptism. So very good. So we're working on that. Back to the Bible. Here's the Chuukese version of it. We styled it just exactly. I got permission from Rob to do this. We styled it just exactly, page for page, verse for verse, everything laid out exact so that you can follow in the English and follow in the Chuukese and have the Bible studies. So this is the heart of the work that I've just covered with you. And this is what we love, and this is what we do. We get through the other things like newsletters and so that we can get to this fun part. Here's a Chuukese lady studying from the Chuukese Back to the Bible. You see the regular one on the bed beside her, and she has the Chuukese version in her hand. We do other things of the work like funerals, and here's a youth activity, and then community service projects with the Rotary Club. Here we're painting bleachers and just being involved. And so, brethren, that's what I wanted to share with you about the spiritual work that's going on there. Now, I've got 12 minutes left to tell you about black magic over in the islands. I wish I had more, but I don't. So I'm going to talk fast, okay? Black magic, the islanders have some incredible beliefs about black magic, and brethren, they truly believe in it. There may be someone here tonight who believes in black magic, and the things that I'll say in no way are meant to be insulting. I don't believe in it. I believe that there's biblical reason to believe that it is not real and therefore cannot afflict us. So you might be encouraged by some of the Bible verses that we look at together to think that black magic cannot have power over us today. But the islanders do truly believe in it. One Chuukese man wrote, "Black magic is for real. It's part of our Chuukese history. We cannot let go of something that's part of our history. It is true that when Christianity first introduced to our islands, the use of black magic starts to diminish. But if you go to Chuuk one day, you'll see that the use of black magic nowadays is very practical. Even youngsters know how to do it, use it. Go and see for yourself. I'm not joking. I'm serious." That was his post. And so they do believe in it. And even sometimes Americans will say, I just wonder about that. I wonder if there's any validity to it, you know, down in those third world countries where they practice it and believe in it. Some of the generic examples from the islands are chicken voodoo. On Tonawos Island in Chuuk, they'll catch a chicken, shave it, say that it's a voodoo doll, and they'll use it then to afflict sports, to try to fix a sports game. Like they'll be up on the mountain with the plucked chicken, live plucked chicken, and they're going to arrange the chicken in such a way to try to throw the pitcher off for the softball game between Saipan and Palau. Yeah, and so they really believe in it. The most common use of black magic is where they'll prepare a meal for an enemy. Brethren, some of these things are bad. They'll prepare a meal for an enemy, and they'll put a poison on the fish that they've prepared. And they'll do a chant over the fish, or take it to the voodoo doctor, the black magic doctor, and have him do the chant, paying him money to do it. And then they'll deliver it to the enemy, and they'll say, "Here, I'm so sorry for what I did to you, or what my family did to you, or whatever. Please take this peace offering." And then they'll take it, and then they'll eat it, and if they don't die from it, then they become very, 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 very sick from it. And so it's really awful. They can make a love potion in which they believe it'll make someone fall in love with them. They believe in ghosts, mysticism, black magic, and Western medicine are all connected in the same thing. Now, it's not so much Guam. Guam does believe in black magic, but not nearly as much as Chuuk and in Palau. And so medicine falls into that category because it's this little white pill, and you take it, and it does weird, amazing kind of things, and we don't know how that works. So that's a black magic also. And so that's what the thinking is there. In Chuuk, there's a ghost world and a human world. And when we die, we become a part of that ghost world. A pregnant woman should not walk alone in the dark because the ghost could turn into a human and attack her, and then turn back into a ghost and go back into the woods. They will not think that it was just a human all along, but a ghost turned into a human and then attacked her and then moved on. Because the ghost wants the baby for whatever reason. The ghost wants access to the baby. And why is unclear. She should not go out in the rain, the pregnant woman, because the ghosts are more active in the rain. And you can say why, and there's not a reason. It's just what everybody knows or what everybody thinks. She should not go fishing when she's close to delivering, because the ghost can jump from the water onto the fish and then onto her. But if they catch a mess of fish and they'll bring it to the bank, if somebody will take a torch and wave it over the fish, then that scares all the ghosts away, and then the pregnant woman can eat that fish. My house in Palau was on a cliff, next to a cliff, and people had fallen to their deaths near or at that cliff. And so people believed that the house we lived in was haunted. I got a better price, a better rent on my house because the local people did not want to live there. That's true. And I said, well, I'm a preacher, so the ghosts are scared of me, see. So anything can be ascribed to black magic. It's really quite dangerous. Anything can be ascribed to it. If you have rats in your house, they'll say, oh, someone has done the black magic on you. And so then what you're expected to do is to go hire the witch doctor to do black magic against that person. Or you're going to throw things on top of their roof to curse them, or you're going to make the fish and try to hurt them. So it can be dreamed up and have no validity, and here a war has started between families that is nonsensical. Rats in the house, in Chuk, brethren, they'll eat a candy bar and throw the wrapper down in the house, and outside on the lawn and in the grass. And so rats are everywhere, and the rats are in the house because there's trash in the house. There'll be a tree that falls on somebody's house, and it could not have just naturally fallen on its own. Somebody did the black magic to cause that tree to fall. Now, never mind the fact that there was a storm the night before, a typhoon, and trees are down all across the island, okay? Someone did the black magic on you. What you going to do about it? And maybe you're not a man if you don't stand up and hire the witch doctor and do something against that family who obviously is the one who caused this tree to fall on your house. So the challenge with this is there things that they have grown up believing and their parents taught them from a very young age. And so it's just common knowledge. Everybody knows black magic exists. And if you were to be the one voice to stand up and say it doesn't, you'd be the weirdo. You'd be well, everybody knows he's not right. I wonder if we hold any beliefs that are maybe not as founded in science, that we have thought all of our lives, and we just know that it's true because our parents taught us that. My mother taught me that you should not touch the bumpy frog because it could give you warts. But that's not true. It's the, what is it, HPV virus that's only transmissible from human to human is how we get the warts. They don't come from frogs. Is it okay to touch a baby bird that has fallen out of the nest? Because I grew up understanding that if you touch the baby bird, the human hand oil gets on the bird, and then when you put it back in the nest, the mother comes and rejects the baby bird. Ever heard that? I heard that growing up. It's not true. It's not true. The mother will not reject the baby bird because you've touched it. And you're probably thinking, now wait a minute, I've heard that all of my life. What do you mean it's not true? And you're going to go and do a search on that online to see whether or not that's true. Yeah, because you'll not take just one source of information. Here in 20 seconds, I've told you something that you've otherwise known true all of your life. That's the way they are with black magic. You know, I can preach it from the pulpit, but it's going to take more than one round to make an impression on them to get them to understand that it's not right. How many minutes do you have to wait before going swimming after eating? Everyone will say 30, right? But our best source of information for that to be true is from a Boy Scouts manual from 1911. The blood does go to our stomachs when we eat, right? But it takes 4 hours for a meal to digest. And so the 30-minute, where we got that from, the blood going to the stomach does not cause cramps in our muscles, which is the reason why they say wait 30 minutes. But we have known that. I have known that. I have been raised with that up until into my 40s. Did I believe that? Go look it up. Because, brethren, you and I have beliefs that fall into the same category. We've believed it all our lives. They're not true. We've believed it all of our lives because everybody around us believes it. So you may have heard that dogs' mouths are cleaner than humans' mouths. It's not true. Lightning does strike the same place twice. Have you heard that hair and nails continue to grow after we die? They don't. And then the Great Wall of China cannot be seen from the moon. But I've always heard that it's the only man-made structure that can. So it takes more than one source, yeah? More than one telling for you to be convinced of that, and brethren, they are the same way. So now I'm down to 4 minutes. The devil had to get permission in order to afflict Job. The devil does not have the ability to do that, to afflict me and you or Job without God's permission. And I'm not suggesting he does it today. He did it a one-time event here. But the message is that the devil doesn't have the ability to do things without permission from God. And that's the argument of black magic. Black magic says, well, it's the power of the devil that does it when you see these things. Brethren, remember with me that all spiritual power comes from God. There's not a mother nature. There's not a father time. There's not a great spirit of the sky. It's just whatever power exists in the world comes from God. People buy crystals on Amazon, and they'll use them to freshen up the spiritual energy of their houses. And I'm not making fun. I'm talking about what people do. There are a lot of crystals on Amazon for sale right now. But the Bible doesn't say that there's power in crystals. They're beautiful. But if there was power in crystals, then the Bible would let us know that. My wife does yoga, and she talks me into it sometimes, okay, admitted. But in yoga, there's a spiritual aspect which we leave out. But in that spiritual aspect, there are chakras, which are spinning discs along your back, that there's a heart chakra and a stomach chakra, and if you're having heart or stomach problems, you can do certain yoga poses to reset the chakra and help with your digestion. Well, the Bible doesn't say that. And so are we to conclude that there are spiritual sources of information apart from the Bible? Is that right? 2 Peter 1:3 is His divine power is given to us all things that pertain to life and godliness. So, brethren, I got to say, it's impossible that there's any spiritual information that's true in the world today that we don't get from the Bible. God has given us everything we need. So just think about everything spiritual that the world believes. If it's not from the Bible, then it's not true. And there can be no spiritual power except from God. Think about luck. Is it wrong am I in trouble if I break a mirror? Bad luck for 7 years? No. No, because the Bible doesn't say that. There's no spiritual power except from God. Shakespeare's Macbeth, a witch's brew. Fillet of fennel snake in the cauldron, boiled and bake. Eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog. Adder's fork and a blind worm's sting. Lizard's leg and an owlet's wing. For a charm of powerful trouble, let a bad broth boil and bubble. Is there any power in the eye of a newt? No. If there's any power in this witch's brew, then it's from the eye of the newt or the devil himself or from God. And God didn't give that power to the devil, and the newt doesn't have it. And so, brethren, there is no spiritual power except from God. All spirituality comes from God alone. So there's no such thing as this black magic brew, as magic at all, or the naked voodoo chicken up on the hill with the baseball game. It can't be, because it would violate the Scriptures. And so, brethren, this is what islanders learn when they come to the church. They can live in panicked fear their whole lives because of what they think another family is doing to them. We better go check the roof and see if anyone has thrown anything up there. Someone has given you something to eat, don't eat it. Ever. Yeah? And someone has done something to our family, then I will go pay the witch doctor, maybe not to attack their family, but to undo the curse. And I will pay the witch doctor everything I've got and commit to him my next month's salary, which they don't have insurance, they just live, they get money for food. And so that's it. And so they'll commit that money to the witch doctor, and the family truly suffer. I've known of the wives to stay up at night over and over again, just railing in misery, thinking that the curse has already been done to them and not knowing what they can do to remedy it, thinking the curse has been done to their children, and it's crippling. So it's not true, this power of the devil, but when they believe in it and they give credence to it, then it hurts their lives very much. So now these Bible verses that you and I have looked at tonight, if they'll believe it, set them free from all of that. How about that? And so when they adhere to that and follow it and believe it, then the Church of Christ becomes known as the church that black magic has no power over. And isn't that powerful for evangelism? Thank you for your good attention tonight. And let's bow together. Father, we thank you for blessing us in so many ways and giving us so many things, Father, so many blessings. We ask that you continue those things, and we wouldn't want to live a day without them, Lord. Thank you for your Son. Thank you for the Bible. And Father, guide us and direct us in everything. Help us as we live our daily lives. Help us as we make decisions. Help us to draw close to you and serve you very well. May we love you with all of our hearts. We pray in Christ's name. Amen.